Alright, in this video, you'll be learning how to mage tank next. So let's get into it. Stats, you want at least 95 plus defense. You could do with 90 plus, but the higher the defense, the better, for obvious reasons. Magic, 85 plus, at least for Ganodermic, because Ganodermic is the bare minimum gear that you need in order to tank next. Herblore, 92 plus for overloads, or you can go from 90 plus, but it's extremely rare to get a 96 boosted Herblore level from 90 with a stew. Prayer, 95 plus, at least for Turmoil. I wouldn't suggest doing Next without overloads or Turmoil because both of them combined just reduces the damage that Next does in you by a lot. Summoning wise, at least 68 plus for War Tortoise. You definitely need a Beast of Burden to last more than a couple kills. Requirements is quick ability or quick teleport to Trollhelm because you don't want to die at Next and have a team not bless you and then have to run all the way back. You'll be cutting time pretty close. You'll have enough time if you have like a 12-minute grave, but it's still rather have that guaranteed you'll be able to get back. You need to have Turmoil, so you need to get that quest done to unlock Ancient Curses because I have no clue how to say that quest. I'm not going to try. Frozen Key, of course, to get to Next, you need a Frozen Key. So in order to get a Frozen Key, you have to enter every single God Wars dungeon area, so 70 plus agility for Sarah and 70 plus strength for Bandos. So on and so forth. Alright, so the gear that you would want in order to mage tank next for the hood, body, and legs is Superior Sea Singer, but Superior Sea Singer is pretty difficult to get. So the regular kind, the tradable version of GE is pretty good. However, the tradable version does disintegrate after 10 hours, so be warned. Virtus is also very good. However, Virtus is pretty expensive, so if you can't afford Virtus, then Ganodermic is your best option. But Ganodermic is the bare minimum that you want, so do not use anything less than Ganodermic. Shield-wise, Chaotic Shields are pretty good. However, if you don't want to get the 200k tokens, you can use a Spirit Shield. But if you do use a Spirit Shield, make sure you use a Divine, Arcane, or Legion, because the Spectral does not have the ability to reduce 30% damage. But if you do use a Spirit Shield, make sure your prayer doesn't drop because every single time you do get hit, your prayer will drop. So make sure your prayer doesn't drop on a very important phase on Next or something like that. Gloves-wise, oh sorry, I skipped one. Wand-wise, Virtus is what I find to be the best because if you're watching this and you have a Seismic Wand which costs 1.7 bill, then by far use the Seismic Wand. But I'm just guessing that people watching this don't have a 1.7 bill wand. So if you can't afford a Virtus wand, use a Treachery wand. Treachery and Aaron's wand are pretty much the same, but Treachery is just less expensive. But Aaron's wand, if you have it in your bank, feel free to use it. Gloves, static or tracker gloves because of the defense and the life points. Virtus or Ganodermic, just if you don't want to spend money on static or tracker gloves because they are more expensive. BOL gloves are Battle of Lumbridge gloves that cost 1.5k divine tiers. However, if Battle of Lumbridge is gone by the time you watch this video, then feel free to use barrel gloves. However, barrel gloves are the bare minimum that you want. Boots wise, Glaven boots and Ragefire boots are pretty good. Glaven for the mage defense and Ragefire for the melee defense. So it is really whichever one that you need. I like the mage defense better because Next does mage you the most. Mage uses mage the most on you. Pernix or Virtus just for the extra defense. Ganodermic is the bare minimum again. Ring, I suggest you getting a Ring of Vigor because Ring of Vigor is the best tanking ring because it saves that 10% adrenaline every single time you use ultimate, which can be really useful on the second prison, which I'll explain later. If you don't want to get the 50k tokens in order to get the Ring of Vigor from Dungeoneering, Onyx Eye or the 6th Age Circuit is also very good. Seer's Ring Eye and Seer's, if you don't have the Onyx or 6th Age Circuit. Aura, I use Penance is pretty good, especially if you're using a Spirit Shield. However, Aura doesn't really matter, I'd rather have Aura just to make sure, just for that extra bonus, rather have the extra bonus than no bonus at all. Scrimshaw, Vampirism, I suggest, is really worth getting a Vampirism because it will heal you up. It will heal you and it will decrease the HP from Next, so it's pretty useful. Cape, I like to use the skill cape for the defense, and also for the mage absorption and stuff like that. If you can't get a skill cape or you don't have a 99, then use a God cape. God cape is pretty good. However, don't use anything else in a God Cape because it's not really worth it. Alright, so this is the gear that I used to use. Only thing I changed from this is my arcane and my glove. I switched out my arcane for a chaotic kite shield because chaotic kite shields didn't drop my prayer every other second, which got quite annoying at next because a lot of times my prayer would drop on Zero's phase and I would die because next would hit me for like a 4k, and so I rather just use a chaotic shield which just doesn't drop my prayer every other second. Gloves, I changed it to a static gloves because Nex does melee you quite often, so it's just useful to have that extra melee defense from the static gloves. Other than that, I really didn't change much. Again, auras don't really matter. You can use whatever aura you want. Alright, so this is the ability bar that I like to use. You can change anything around that you want, and this is the ability bar that I get the most success with, so that's why I'm suggesting it to you. You can change up the keybinds, you can change it any way you like. However, I suggest that you use these abilities because they're really useful and they provide the best results for me. Alright, so this is the inventory I like to bring. 2 Overload Flask, 2 Paranoia Flask, and 2 Adrenaline Flask. You can build your way up to this. However, if this is your first time tanking or you're not good at tanking, only bring 1 Overload Flask. I like to bring around 9 to 10 super restores, but if you're only bringing 1 Overload Flask, only bring about 5 or 6, because a lot of times you will get a brew and restore drop, which will help you with your prayer. I like to bring around 4 brew flask in my inventory because it helps when you need HP but you don't want to lower your adrenaline bar like on ice phase. I like to also bring dust runes just because it's kind of like a 1 rune spell kind of thing. Like dust runes can act as air runes and earth runes, so you can use air surge or earth surge at next. I like to bring yak just in case. However, if you're using 1 Overload Flask, you don't need another yak pouch. But if you're using a tort, definitely bring another yak tort pouch for 1 Overload Flask trip. I like to bring a uni switch off just in case. Tab, because if your team does bad, you need to get out of the next room without dying. And then rocktails just because you need food. I wouldn't suggest using anything less than rocktails or anything more than rocktails because rocktail soup isn't really worth it. So rocktails are pretty much the best way to go. So if you're using a yak, I like to use this setup. I like to bring about 6 brew flask in there. However, if you are using an arcane, the last 3 rocktails on the pitcher, replace those rocktails with super restore flask. That's if you're using like a spirit shield, so divine, LE, or arcane, because your prayer will drop more often than someone using a chaotic kite shield. So again, if you're using a arcane, divine, or a legion, replace those last 3 rocktails in the bottom of my yak with a super restore flask. And if you're using a tort, then use this setup. However, if you're using an arcane or legion or divine, replace the last 3 brews with super restore flask. Alright, now you're ready to kill next. So when you're in the next room, you want to stand where I'm standing right now. If you just did a kill, you want to use this time to rest because resting speeds up the HP recovery process. So during this time, you just want to get ready, get your ability bar set up, get everything set up, make sure everything's good. Alright, so now that next spawn, you want to use this time to activate your aura, activate your scrimshaw, and then drink up your overload, drink up your prayer renewal. Your quick prayer should be torment, keepsake item, and magic prayer. So as soon as next calls, you want to turn on your magic and then run to where I'm running right now. So as I said, prayer mage strategy is done. Do you want to use anticipate? You want to use anticipate here because anticipate stops Nex from dragging you into the middle, and sometimes that can do a decent amount of damage to you. During this phase, really nothing to it. Just stand where I am right now and really don't move. Use resonance, use preparation. Spam the anticipate though. Make sure you spam the anticipate. Spam the anticipate throughout the whole kill besides the blood phase and ice phase. Alright, so now that Nex has called, you want to get ready for the next phase. I like to use resonance, and so that's what you saw there. I use resonance and get a melee distance of next. Alright, so now it's the shadow phase. The shadow phase is again a really easy phase. Only difference is from the last phase is that you have to pray range and dodge the shadows. The shadows can hit up to like a 2k, 3k to you, so you want to make sure that you're that you can be able to dodge your shadows, or else I can do quite decent amount of damage on you. So you just use resonance, preparation. During this phase, when you use resonance, you want to drop your prayer so it can hit the maximum amount that it can on you. So instead of hitting you for a high amount, it would heal you for a high amount. That's what I like to do at least. So this phase is really nothing to it. Just use resonance and just dodge the shadows. So when next calls, you just want to learn next around to where I am right now to the other side. Make sure you don't get too close to next to your team, because if you get too close, then your team will have to dodge your shadows and also pray range. So that can be a little annoying for them. Now blood phase, you want to pray mage and just again keep on attacking it. The only difference is that towards the end of blood phase, you want to make sure that your ability bar is at 100%. At 100%, it can't be 98, 99, because if she calls an ice prison, she will screw you up. You will die, or you won't die, but you will get in a prison of ice and not be able to tank the prison because you don't have the high enough ability bar. So if you got it done, alright, so I'm going to pause the video here and show you something, tell you something that's really important for your tanking of the prison. Alright, so the next phase is the ice phase. During the ice phase, Nex will trap you in a prison of ice, and in this prison of ice, she will hit you for 5 to 6k if you're not able to tank it. Now, when your team is killing Kruor between the blood phase and the ice phase, and your team kills Kruor, and Nex is between a siphon and a blood sacrifice, she will do her first move in the ice phase will be die in a prison of ice. However, if your team kills Kruor and Nex is between a blood sacrifice and a siphon, Nex will do contain this. So right now, see how she's saying a siphon will solve this? My team will kill Kruor, and I will tag Nex for the next phase. So since she's between a siphon and a blood sacrifice, she will do a die now in a prison of ice. So make sure I will anticipate and tank the prison. However, if Nex was saying, I demand a blood sacrifice, then instead of saying die now in a prison of ice for her first move, she will say contain this. So make sure you don't waste your anticipate and you just run away and avoid that 3k to 1k 3k to 4k damage that Nex will do to you. So I'm going to tag her between the siphon and the ice blood sacrifice. So now when my team tags her for the next phase, see now fusing the power of ice, she will say die now in a prison of ice. Alright, now when she says infusing with the power of ice, and you tagged her between a siphon and a blood sacrifice, her first move will be a die in a prison of ice. So you want to anticipate when she says infusing with the power of ice. So when she says die now in a prison of ice, you can either use barricade if you have high HP above 5k, or immortality if you have below 5k. Now what I like to do in the prison is like turn off my prayer and drink on my prayer restores, because you don't want your prayer to drop when you're trying to tank the second prison. I wasn't able to tank the second prison during this kill because we only had one prison, so I'm gonna put a clip at the end of this kill showing you how to tank the second prison. So I used anticipate when she said infusing with the power of ice, and so in the prison I didn't have to use freedom. I just used immortality straight away, and that healed me back up. So now during this clip I was building up my adrenaline bar. So I used combustion, preparation, anticipate, and I kept on spamming my basic abilities. And I drank an adrenaline flask and I kept on attacking her. Unfortunately, there was no second prison in this clip. However, I will pull in at the end, like I said before. So I tagged her. Now this is the zros phase. During the zros phase, you want to pray mage and use as many defensive abilities as you can. I like to spam your resonance and spam your preparation. Also spam your anticipate and spam your freedom, because that will build up your adrenaline bar. Once you're at 100%, I like to use rejuvenate first, so it builds me back up to around full HP. Now you spam your resonance and you build your bar back up to 100%, and then you can use barricade or immortality, and then keep on building your bar back up, and then use immortality. When you use resonance, I like to drop my prayer so she hits me for like a 2 to 4k, which is really useful. So again, when you use resonance during zros phase, just drop your prayer so she can hit you for the max amount. And then congratulations, you just killed Nex, and keep on doing this over and over again, and you're pretty much guaranteed to make bank. Alright, so this clip is to show you how to tank the second prison. So I used Anticipate and I did Immortality. Since I had a Ring of Vigor, I already had a 10% Adrenaline bar to work with, so that helped me to get to my 100%. You just spam your basic abilities. I like to use Preparation. I like to use Resonance, which also builds your Adrenaline bar. Make sure you don't use Freedom because you need Freedom to tank the second prison. I use Combustion since it wasn't on my hotbar. If she gets off you, you just provoke it back on you, and make sure you drink the Adrenaline Flask. And during the second prison, all you have to do is hit Freedom and then use Barricade or Immortality, whichever one you didn't use for the first one. Now, this is pretty much about it. Now, you just lure next round to near your team so that during Zero's phase, they can just get right on her without having to run to you. And it's extremely easy to do.